Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where we finished AVX 12. We finished it. The fight.
There's more. We finished the fight.
Yes.
In the crossover reading guides, are there stuff that happens after this, or is it just the consequences and fallout issues?
I didn't actually look that up. I will do that while we talk about this. But yeah, this is the big climatic, or this is the fallout issue from the big climatic event that would happen in X-Men 11 where Cyclops killed Xavier.
Yep.
I'm going to be real with you, Gary.
Dark Cyclops.
Our next issue after this says it's Wolverine and the X-Men number 18. and just a little continuity issue that I have is that the last one we covered was 16. And so
I wonder if 18 is the one where they gives the eulogy or something.
It's got to be. It's got to be like the coming back from the funeral or something. So that probably makes some sense. And then AV.
We'll see. Let's do some scouting.
Yeah, we're going to have to look at this because there's AVX versus number 6, which.
Oh, I got to read that.
I got to read that. Uncanny X-Men 1819, Avengers number 30, and then that 5-issue AVX Consequences book, which we might end up covering, depending on how meaty it is. That might just be like a one episode where we discuss whatever happens in that overall. But we'll find out. We'll
a couple more sessions.
Yeah, we have a couple more sessions of this to go. I can't believe. I hope.
And if you have things to say about the crossover, we want that as well.
Now is the time. Yeah, we'll do a feedback. We haven't done a feedback episode in a while, so any of the recent MCU stuff, probably going all the way back to, I think we did it on WandaVision, probably with Black Widow, I think is where we I don't think we've done anything since Black Widow. So any MCU stuff you want to talk about, any of the AVX crossover events, X-Men stuff in general that you are excited about, send it our way. They delayed that X-Men game, that tactics game, which is fine because I was not going to play it.
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
I like delays. But I'm still super excited to play it. I've been replaying X-Men Legends 1.
Yeah.
It's that game is fun as hell.
Yeah. I need to play that because I think I bought those remasters. I need to play them again. So
they didn't remaster the X-Men ones. They remastered the Avengers ones, and those are also fun.
Yeah.
They have plenty of X-Men. Those are probably my favorite beat 'em ups. And we've been kicking around stuff we're gonna do after this. We've had a couple ideas. I'll just say them out loud. We haven't decided yet, but just get people hyped. Doing some solo series. That was one of the ideas. So doing individual highlight series that characters have and just kind of doing the first arc and then jumping off if they're not good.
Yes.
But a lot of X-Men have had solo series, and that's a half blind spot for me. I read some of them, but there are a lot of them I don't know very well.
And some of that might be also, I didn't think about it when you were texting about this the other day, but you mentioned one specifically that was kind of goofy, like Gambit and the Ghost Rider, but also there's a Gambit and Rogue series. So some double ups too, not necessarily just solo books, but some offshoots.
That's supposed to be very good.
Yeah.
The Mr. and Mrs. X one. That's supposed to be really great. And I've never read it. The other thing we were talking about doing is doing a tour of first appearances.
Yeah.
So I've never read the Hulk issue that Wolverine appears in.
It's okay.
His first issue. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of the stuff isn't very good. I've read the first appearance of Gambit. He's real weird in the first one, and it might be a cool way to see how characters change.
Yeah.
The first appearance of Bishop is really interesting. I remember being alive for that. And reading that.
That's a weird way to phrase that, Gary. I remember being alive for that. I was dead. I was dead for the other one.
Yeah, I've gone full comic character.
I was an itch in my daddy's pants when they showed up for the second time though. So.
Oh yeah, just a dad itch. But yeah, I read for the My Marvelous Year podcast. I read the first appearance of Multiple Man.
Nice,
which is real weird. He goes and fights the Fantastic Four.
I would do that podcast again. I need to tell those boys that I had a lot of fun talking about the Wolverine stuff. I need to figure out a way for you to read that Wolverine stuff that I read because you would dig the fuck out of that stuff.
Which one was it?
It's the Weapon X stuff by
Barry Windsor Smith.
Maybe so, Barry Windsor Smith, but the art is just fucking crazy. It's real body horror. It gets just out of the box. It's kind of like a self-contained Weapon X thing, and it's just really fucking good.
Yeah, It's probably the Weapon X story from Barry Windsor Smith.
Yeah,
like that thing. I've read that before. It's a classic.
Yeah, it's
super good.
I had never read it. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
Actually, I should probably just tell you we should read that and do it on the podcast because we didn't.
Yeah, we could just also do it on the podcast. Yeah, we have a Did you know, Jeremy, that we have a podcast where we read X-Men comics, and we're currently trying to figure out what X-Men comics to read next?
We got to run everything we do past Will, and he's notoriously an anti X-Men guy, so it's really hard to get stuff approved to do on the podcast.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Our cover is very Iron Man focused for some reason.
Yeah. It's there.
Yeah, his little jetpack.
And we've got Hope and Scarlet Witch in the background kind of semi like combining their powers maybe a little bit. And then just various X-Men floating in space underneath them. It looks like they're literally floating in space. There's a lot I think some of this is really fun. There's a lot of problems I have with the way that this book articulates, because I don't know what they were trying to get across to me with some of this world traveling stuff. It was really, really bizarre.
But we're gonna get into it. The last issue of this I liked a lot more. This is only cool to me once it ends, like when it's doing the denouement.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like how it's setting stuff up and everything, but actually what happens in here I feel is frustrating.
We start with kind of a sum up of Scarlet Witch doing the No More Mutants thing, the Phoenix realizing that coming to Earth, a brief aside about Hope and possibly being the vessel for the Phoenix, and we get a weird like symbol of the chaos magic. What is this fucking? Why can't I remember what the symbol is?
The yin yang.
The yin yang symbol of chaos magic and the Phoenix Force over Earth, which is just a little too Iron Fist for me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't like it.
This whole issue is a little Iron Fist to it. It's also, he's like all of us embodied by two amazingly powerful women. And I love women, in just a general sense. It's just a weird thing to say. And then later when they like, there's some kind of gender thing that's going on. Like, and I'm not trying to sound like a Reddit dude, but there's some kind of weird, like, these two ladies are doing it for themselves over a Cyclops thing that one of the characters says later as well, that I just noticed. And doesn't bother me because it's pro women, like I'm pro women. It bothers me because it feels like a non sequitur a little bit and not tied into anything else the book has set up at all.
Okay. I don't think I picked up on
we'll get into it
on the women comment, but I'm interested to get there.
It's not a huge deal. Like, nobody cancel me. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's just this thing I noticed when I was searching for themes of what this was meant to be. I was trying to figure out what this comic was actually like about.
Mm-hmm.
And it was difficult.
Yeah.
So I was searching.
It's always going to be difficult when the answer to that question is selling comic books, right? Like
selling comic books, or just something as like absolutely ancient as power corrupts.
Yeah.
Like the oldest story that's ever been told. So Iron Man says, that's all I've got.
Again,
this was 3 days ago. This is 3 days before the fight we just saw.
And this is like the 5th or 6th time in the series that he has told us that. So
yeah, it keeps happening. And he's like, I've reached the limits of science, which is a first. We don't know what will happen. He starts saying like, we have to get Wanda and Hope together, and we have to have faith in them. And Wolverine's like, that sounds like Iron Fist stuff. The most like relatable to, Wolverine wouldn't say that because he's a samurai, like he's into that Zen and all of that stuff. And him having faith is meant to be this like big sea change for Iron Man.
Yes.
Like he does not believe in magic. He only believes in technology. And Captain America's like, that's great that you have this, but it's not a practical solution. And he goes, Cap, I think that they can answer. We had to put all our faith in Scarlet Witch and Hope. What's frustrating about this is that they've known this forever.
Yeah.
Like this has been established that they were the ones who could hurt him over and over and over.
I mean, as soon as we saw that, like, Scarlet Witch was the only person that could just use her powers to affect the Phoenix people. And then we learned that Hope's entire fucking mutant power is duplicating and enhancing mutant powers of other people. it should have been pretty clear that you could put those two people in a room together. Like, I'm not saying that they need to do like a three-legged race or anything, but tie their fucking legs together. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, have them carry an egg and a spoon.
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch, win this auction, and you can force Hope to do her entire cooking on this table. I just don't know why they're not using words for any of this stuff. Like the Avengers all come off like idiots where they don't talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I want my superheroes to come off as like slightly smarter than this. This cuts over to Scarlet Witch checking in on Hope, you know, and saying like, hey, we should probably be in that meeting. They're talking about us. And Hope turns around and blames Scarlet Witch for this.
Yes.
You know, says like, you know, I can't blame them. I blame you. She kind of backs down and he's like, no, you wiped out, you know, mutants. That's what started Cyclops on this path. And she basically says like, I hate myself for that every day, but I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And I still don't really feel like a Scarlet Witch reckoning has happened.
No.
In this. And we don't get one.
And we get this like comedy beat after what is a very serious conversation to me, of, you know, Hope being forced to run and train to be a soldier her entire life, much like Cyclops, having this conversation with Wanda, who is like, well, can't do nothing about it, killed a bunch of mutants, no big deal. And then they turn that immediately into this like, oh, well, we gotta, you know, they were working, Iron Fist and Captain America are walking up and they're like, you know, I think they're gonna work together, we gotta get them on the same page. And they look up and they're like, oh, the women are fighting.
What the?
Yeah. It's a very bad moment, I think.
It's worth noting as well, that like when it's like, oh, she didn't kill a bunch of mutants and she just depowered them. When they did Decimation and M-Day, when they did those stories, there was a big emphasis on characters like who could fly, who lost their powers in the air.
Yeah.
And stuff. Like people did die. A lot of people died. It wasn't just like, oh, they didn't get to be cool superheroes anymore. It's also human life.
Yes.
You know, as this happens, it cuts over to the fight where Dark Cyclops is just fucking housing everybody. I love this art. I love Iron Man, who is in the foreground. His armor is melting.
Yes. Very cool.
That looks so cool.
Very cool. I love any time that Hulk is being beat up, and Hulk is being beat up right there. Yep. So that's good.
Two Hulks are being beat up.
Two Hulks are being beat up. And we're seeing kind of
the good one and the bad one.
We're seeing the aftermath of what happened when Cyclops turned into the Dark Phoenix. I said that weird. The Dark Phoenix. When he turns into the Dark Phoenix. And that like there's like apocalypse shit happening all across the world. Like we're literally getting like meteors and volcanic ash falling down at this point. There's typhoons, there's earthquakes, the
ocean's on fire.
Ocean's on fire. Like the world, he's tearing the world apart. And then we jump over to Captain America, who has left the fight. And I just want to say this out loud with my words, because Captain America has spent a lot of time going up to Cyclops and going, "You're fucking wrong. You're a piece of shit. You're fucking wrong. You're a piece of shit." And then as soon as that actually works, and Cyclops is like, "You know what? Fuck you. I am a piece of shit." Captain America jumps on a fucking jet and leaves. He literally jets away from the entire situation.
What a dick.
Under the guise of we have to protect the Earth from Cyclops, and I'm like, you fucking self-righteous prick, man. I hate it.
Yeah. The worst. You know, they're running away because they're going to go get their Plan B weapon, which we're going to talk about, which it should have been their Plan A. And they're also going off to save people from tsunamis and shit. That's when we cut to around the world of them fighting. I love them sending Gambit and Hawkeye to Paris. Gambit throws a card at a piece of debris, blowing it up. And Hawkeye is apparently going to shoot a piece of debris with an arrow, but fuck Paris, I guess.
Yeah, fuck Paris.
Gambit and Hawkeye.
The entire Eiffel Tower is on fire in the background. Like, why didn't you send Iceman? Like, I know Iceman can't be everywhere, but and also like
he kind of can. But it's very funny.
But I don't understand this because and maybe I'm just missing something, right? Like, is this like a significant amount of time that's happening? Like, because it's pretty confusing. So I think the idea is that the Avengers and X-Men scrambled to go save lives via teleportation, probably off camera. And they're intercutting it with showing how badass Dark Scott is, because in the second panel he punches
Hulk over Sydney. I don't know how they got to Sydney. They were in San Francisco.
That's what I was. This is what I would like.
Yeah.
Why? How did they get to Australia from San Francisco? I mean, it's cool that he's punching Hulk from Sydney to fucking Sacramento. That's okay. Like,
it should be the other way around. I think it's just because Sydney has an opera house, so we know where he's at.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And then we see like Spider-Man and Angel in Beijing, and I'm like, y'all, what? How much time is happening? Like, it feels like
it's Beijing, which is the Golden Gate Bridge over a big mountain with nothing on it. Yeah. Which I don't know if that's actually in Beijing. But like the iconography gets real weird.
This feels very
like the
much
Golden
like
Gate Bridge on the moon.
The last season of Game of Thrones when like all of the slow prodding, like we actually have to walk to places, gets thrown out for, home dude can run across the country in 5 minutes and she can fly across in 3. And it feels very weird and like, oh, we want to make, because I think they do this gag where Cyclops punches somebody like 8,000 miles like a couple of times during
that happens right here. He punches Hulk in Sydney and he lands in Sacramento.
Yeah, I think it happens again is what I'm saying. Yeah, because he punches in the next page he punches Thor into space. Yeah.
Yeah. Zaps him from the Himalayas. Mm-hmm. He just teleported over to the Himalayas. I don't know how much time this is meant to be. This is a montage of several like weeks of fighting Cyclops. I don't know.
And look, and give me that. Give me week 1 as a narration device, right? Like give me like it took us like we were whatever.
17 hours into the Cyclops War, the Dark Phoenix War, the
DarkClops War.
Yeah.
We do see Captain Britain doing one thing that's heroic, which makes the first time that's happened in this entire series.
He's helping. I think he's not even doing it by himself. He's helping somebody else lift up a plane.
Thor gets punched into space, and then the rest of the Avengers are converging on the beach that we just saw them leave. I guess they were going to get the 2 people, but of course it doesn't work. Cyclops just he uses his AoE attack and pushes them all away. So
yeah, I don't know where Captain America was going. They're saying take him down. He's like, you can't take me down. Like, I'm going to rebuild the world, and it's not going to be for people like you.
Yeah.
Again, pissed.
I do want to say that his glowing like Phoenix necklace chain
shoulder,
it's dope. Like, it's pretty cool.
His mantle. Oh, it's a cool looking. It looks so much cooler than the Avengers Academy guy who has the lightning bolts on his outfit.
Yes, 100%.
Like, it's significantly cooler looking. Great design. I wish they would make a Dark Phoenix Cyclops action figure. So as he's saying, the Age of the Phoenix begins. They're like, we should try our, Iron Man says, Steve, we have to try our backup plan. And I guess Captain America was reluctant about this for some reason. They had to convince him that now it's time to do this. It's the stupidest thing I ever read because it's what they should have started with and saved innumerable lives.
And I know this is like drama, right? Like you want to, but like it just, it doesn't make any, like, because Captain America's whole thing is like tactics and being battle savvy and knowing how to do this stuff. And like, oh, we're going to do the exact same thing that we've gotten beaten up for every single time we've tried it. Again, now that he's super, super powered up, instead of using the thing that the only shot that we have and that may or may not work. It's so dumb.
You know what it is? It's anime. And I don't want to sound like a parody, but it's like I saved my strongest attack for the end.
Yeah, yeah. Start with, we talk about this all the time. Start with the strongest attack. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I can't risk, like, there's no reason for me to do my ultimate move. It's got so much gravitas to it. We have to spend 3 or 4, we have to spend 12 issues of Dragon Ball-esque charging before we can use the thing that we know will work. And it just insults your intelligence.
Yes.
It just ends up, when characters act stupid for rule of cool reasons, it drives me nuts. The idea here is that we have to get, for it to work, they have to get Cyclops down to ground level. So like, hey, can anybody do it? And Nova takes does it.
Can we talk about the bones conversation right before this though?
Here, let me see. Oh yeah.
Because Iron Fist tells Captain America, like, I believe this will work in my bones. And Wolverine says, if it hurts him, me and my bones are okay with it. And I'm like, what is this? What are you doing?
It's real weird. Yeah, that is a weird line. I didn't really think about that.
But yeah, Nova comes out of the sky and does a Nova thing where he pushes him to the ground and says that he is kicking Cyclops' ass, which, no, you're not.
He tackles him, but Cyclops immediately takes him down.
Yeah.
And this was all just to give them time to deploy Hope and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
who this is so easy.
Yeah, just put him in the fight, dog.
Yeah, and they knew it. Like, it's played as a reveal.
Why are you
like, they're like,
why are you waiting to the fourth quarter to put Jordan in the game? What are you doing?
I don't get it. Like, they're talking about so flashback to 72 hours ago where like Captain America's like, I can't believe these two are our only hope and they're fighting. It's not going to work. And Iron Man goes, it will work. This is what happened when they were pointing at each other. Can you imagine if they were pointed at the same direction? Because they're standing in a big crater. And they're going to punch and beam Cyclops. Using the Phoenix Chaos Punch. Using Wanda's, Chaos Magic, which we know hurts the Phoenix for reasons. They just do it. It's not, there's nothing, there's no drama, there's no sense to it. It's very frustrating.
And then during this fight, it's not bad enough that they just pop them out like this, like it's some big surprise or whatever. During the actual fight, where Hope is drawn simultaneously as a 45-year-old woman and a 16-year-old girl,
yeah,
they flash back to 72 hours before, where they're having the fight. Scarlet Witch and Hope are having the fight, and then Iron Fist is like, focus your rage, Hope, and then you know what I'm saying. All of that is just feels super super bad. And then the rest of the Avengers come back again. Captain America has been on and off this plane several times during the last 4 pages. I'm very confused
consistently.
Are there 2 Captain Americas in this timeline? I don't know.
I don't know. They're like, you're hurting him. Wolverine says hurting him's not enough. We got to put him down. And we start getting internal monologue from Cyclops, where he's talking about how he wanted to change the world, to see his children grow up, not to be Cable, but to be, peaceful. And it shows these flashbacks of his memories. It's kind of sweet. He's realizing somewhere along the way, I went way off track. Again, we saw that somewhere along the way was 2 days ago or a day ago when he turned into Dark Phoenix.
It was 6 hours ago, or however much time has passed, but it was extremely recent. And the only reason that he went off track is because everybody kept telling him that he would constantly telling him that.
There's no groundwork laid for him to feel this guilt at this point. Or this kind of guilt. He could be like, oh shit, I caused the oceans to set on fire because I turned into Dark Phoenix. But him looking back on his time when he was a kid and being like, somewhere along the way, I went off track. And we started at the beginning of this and I read Schism, and it's showing the beginning of radicalized Cyclops. Mm-hmm. It makes me feel like this comic is the philosophy behind this comic is very cowardly.
Yes.
Cyclops, it was bad because he was radicalized. Even though that is a context-free looking, that is a centrist and context-free looking way of looking at it, where an extreme is bad in and of itself, regardless of the context. And that is simply not true and has never been less of a fashionable idea.
Mm-hmm.
This is right in the middle of Obama era optimism.
Yes.
Coming out in 2012. This is so out of step with how the world looks 10 years later.
Yeah.
This is a relic.
It feels really, really outdated. And again, I have hammered this point home, and so have you during this entire thing. I really don't feel like Cyclops is doing anything wrong. The entire premise of this book, the entire Schism thing, Wolverine had a point, but also but that's also you shouldn't train children for war. But Cyclops looks at that and says, well, I mean, we there's only 300 of us, literally in the universe. Yeah. I need every hand on deck. That's an actual ideological fight, and I like where that ended up with where everybody splits up. This is literally the Avengers coming onto the X-Men property, trying to kidnap a teenage girl, and then getting mad when Cyclops says, "No, please don't do that." And then it's going from there,
because the girl did not want to be kidnapped at first.
Yeah,
they just kind of harangued her into being okay with it. This makes the Avengers look like shit.
It really does, dude.
Such jerks.
And I'm so disappointed because, and as we have talked, a lot, this one panel where Cyclops thinks, but somewhere along the way I lost track, and he's pushing Xavier as he's a child or whatever. Yeah, I mean, somewhere along the way, the fucking world went crazy and almost exterminated your race, and nobody else was willing to step up to the plate to fucking deal with it besides you, Emma Frost, and Magneto. And that looks bad, but y'all were doing good. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, it was also an interesting story that was happening, and the status quo of this is interesting. Like, we'll talk about it in a minute, but there are things about it I think are interesting, but that idea of like the X-Men are more radicalized and more hardline is fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, it justifies the X-Men's place in the Marvel universe, which is a weird place in general. Like they're superheroes, they save the world, but they always have to have this outsider status. Them doing Utopia and being more hardline about it gave them something that differentiated them from like the Defenders or any other like superhero team. Like we have an agenda. It's a political and identity based agenda. Like, yes, we will help save the world, but we also have our own goals, you know, and it was fascinating. Like it was an interesting direction for them to take. And this just feels like it's pulling back on that a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the moment that he starts like actively going crazy, and we get some like remnants of the Dark Phoenix saga from way back when, where he's like, please kill me before it takes me over. And then it absolutely consumes him, and he starts going like full Phoenix Force when he starts seeing somebody coming to him from the flames, and it's a woman-shaped figure saying, Scott, this has to stop. He, of course, immediately thinks it's Jean. He starts crying. You have to let go. But, of course, this is not Jean. This is Scarlet Witch and Hope, who continue to bash him. And they punch him. And they punch him so hard, the Phoenix leaves.
Punch the Phoenix out of him.
Yeah. Bummer, because that has to hurt.
That has to be pretty bad. The idea, so the Phoenix comes up, it flies up in the sky, and Scarlet Witch is like, the Phoenix left, don't look at it. And we go back to our 71 hours ago, where Captain America is trying to say like, hey, we didn't want the Phoenix into you in the first place. While not reckoning with the fact that that's a huge mistake, that ended up fucking everything up. Like, we didn't want that. Are we just going to send all these people to possibly die just to do the thing we didn't want to have happen in the first place?
Yeah.
And she doesn't give him an answer. She's like, whatever I decide to do, don't try to stop me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of interesting, but there needs to be some self-reflection that happens. The Phoenix gets into Hope.
Yeah.
Hope now has the Phoenix, which was what would have happened to the Avengers who just minded their own goddamn business in the first place. There's some stuff about, arriving as the person you are and self-actualization here. This is the stuff I think I was tying on to the earlier stuff. This is what I was thinking about. It's not directly tied to, but it feels like a non-theme to me. You know, you're something strong, trapped in the body of a weakling. You want to change the world, but you don't know what's going to happen. You don't care if things are bad or good. You just want to arrive and finally be yourself.
I feel like that specifically, like this entire conversation between Captain America and Hope right here, in regards to have you ever felt like you're strong, trapped in the body of a weakling? And of course, Captain America's like, yeah, I have some idea of what that feels. Trying to make that comparison, I don't think works at all, because she hasn't been a weakling. Like, she has been, you know, as a child, maybe, but like ever since like she was brought back into this timeline from Cable, like she's been trained. She was already trained by Cable. She was trained by Cyclops. She has powers. She's used her powers to bring mutants into the world and protect them as much as she can, which is all that Generation X stuff, if I remember right.
Generation Hope.
Hope, thank you. So like this conversation really rings hollow to me, and I don't believe that she feels this. Like, I feel like she would feel more like confused as to why. Honestly, I feel like the thing with Scarlet Witch is probably like more what she would be feeling more than anything, of like just absolutely pissed. Like, you guys, you're right. Like, you don't want the thing to happen. You tried to prevent this from happening, and now it's going to happen anyway. You should have just never fucking come here. This wasn't your business.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating that we get this like, oh, we have to compare her to Captain America too for theme reason.
Yeah.
And I don't.
She has to be Captain America, Iron Fist, and Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
It's what I was thinking about earlier, and I got confused because it's not specifically gendered. It's empowerment themed. Is the idea. This is her like getting her groove, and it reads entirely false, not just as a comparison to Captain America, but like you said, just false with her history. Like, it doesn't feel like a logical next step for this character to me, based on what I've read, which is not everything, right? Like, there could be some stuff that I missed. Absolutely. but just this idea of like, I don't actually care if I live or die. I just got to be me is not a theme that is going to be very resonant with me in general, but is also not a theme that I feel like they laid track for.
Yeah, same.
So her having the Phoenix power, she goes around and fixes the world.
Yep.
Everyone's real shocked that she's doing it. She lands and she says like, I am the Phoenix. She's got the white Phoenix costume that Jean had. Here the Avengers are like freaked out, and they're just saying like, chill out. Like, just wait a second. Don't try to fight her. And Scarlet Witch is the one who talks her down. Walks up and says, this has to stop. You don't get to be the white Phoenix who fixes everything. And just kind of convinces her to not do it.
Mm-hmm.
Comes up and just says like, no more playing hero, no more, playing God. You're the person who has the strength to let the Phoenix Force go.
Yeah. And
they both say no more Phoenix. The Phoenix flies up into the world and makes mutants.
Yes. We start seeing, we go back over to the Cuckoos who see the Phoenix Force blink out. And then like the Phoenix Force starts like lightning striking down. Spider-Man having the worst luck of any superhero in the world. Like it almost hits him, which is
would have turned into
very funny to me. Like it's very much that like that picture that goes around of like God said fuck those 4 fish in particular or whatever. Like, but it strikes a little girl and she turns into a mutant. Like she's got wings and and
made of stone.
Yeah. And Spider-Man is like calling this in and basically saying like what's happening over there, and then Cyclops, they're watching Cyclops kind of come in, his clothes and just in shreds, and he can't see because
real quick before we get into that, because I like the Cyclops stuff that comes after this.
Okay.
So the idea is that the Phoenix's goal was to come here and create mutants, but the method by which it did it was to get into Hope and then have Hope choose to reject the power of the Phoenix. So like, are we meant to believe that the only way the Phoenix could have created mutants is by going through somebody who rejected it? Like that is some shitty like test stuff.
Yeah.
Like that does not make sense for me to an alien intelligence like that to like, it's too spiritual. For the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like it is too relatable and pat. The Phoenix could just show up and make mutants, that'd be fine. Or the Phoenix could go into Hope and Hope could choose to make mutants, that'd be fine. But this articulation of it is bullshit. Like I hate it.
I hadn't thought about this because I hadn't really thought it because I was just like, oh yeah, well, this makes sense. Like they did the no more mutants, now we got to bring mutants back. This is a really easy way to do it. But you're right, like it doesn't make a lot of sense. And also, when Hope was brought back into this world, mutants started appearing. Her, and I always thought that was really weird that wasn't like. I thought it was strange that her ability was to duplicate and not inspire or enhance, like mutant powers, right? Like because if she has like the innate ability to spawn mutant gifts in a populace that would normally get it, then it would make sense that the Phoenix would possess her to. And give and create that and expand on that ability. So it doesn't make any sense that she just lets it go and
that's what does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty irritating.
Do you think this is them trying to do the Wanda atonement that we keep talking about of like using the chaos magic along with the Phoenix Force to undo or try to like make up for what she was doing?
Yeah, I think this is meant to be Wanda making amends. It's not even though she was not in her right mind when it happened, it's not like I want to see justice, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I'm not somebody who's baying for, I don't believe in jail really in real life, but it is just weird that everyone is expected to emotionally move on from this.
There's
and when I say everybody, I mean Cyclops.
Just Cyclops. There's a moment in AVX 11 as they are like getting close to what they think is defeating Cyclops when Captain America says like, Scott Summers, you were arrested for crimes of, and it gets distracted, it gets cut off, and I'm like, for crimes of what? Like what laws has he violated? And also, if he's violated those laws, why the fuck is Scarlet Witch around? Like, why haven't you put her in jail? Because that seems like, and it's because she's an Avenger. A lot of the thematic stuff in this is just very, very broken.
It falls flat. In the comic, so Cyclops gets up. He doesn't have the power of the Phoenix. He doesn't have his visor because he didn't need it as the Phoenix. And he's just covering his eyes. Like all this stuff is like, there's good pathos here.
Yeah.
You know, like the idea of him, like, you know, I could see their faces without being able to see it. We cut to him in jail. He's in a ruby quartz prison, you know, so like Magneto's plastic prison, right? Like Captain America is visiting him just to make fun of him. It seems like, and drinking out of a Captain America branded coffee cup.
So is it in the jail or did he bring it? Right? Like,
the cup, if he just leaves it.
Yeah. Does he leave it in a, like,
use all my Cap merch?
Yeah. Like, nobody can use this. It's got to stay clean for when I come in and make fun of Cyclops for 20 minutes every week. Like, it's just a really funny thing. I'm like, I don't know. It's
the condescension hour featuring Papa Rogers.
This is good. But I also like Cyclops being like, I don't really remember about after a certain point, I nearly destroyed the world. I killed Charles Xavier. All of the, I take full responsibility. I see what he's doing here of like, he feels bad for what he did. But I just want to go over there and like, just give him a hug and be like, you were right. You were right the whole time.
Yeah.
you were absolutely right.
Yeah. It's more than I want for this. You know, he says Captain America is trying to figure out, you know, I don't know what he's here for other than to tease him, but he's seems like he's trying to get information about the other Phoenix Five. We see wanted posters for them and Magneto with a hood, like going undercover. You know, so the idea is the X-Men that were complicit are now fugitives again.
So,
and I think is the idea.
This is really irritating too, because Magneto was on their fucking side. He came to the Avengers. Like he was like, no, we should take down Cyclops. But like, what is he like? He just didn't want to hang out. And so they're like, no, we're going to put up fucking wanted posters for you now. Like what?
It's really contrary to the other new status quo thing they're trying to do.
Yes.
Cyclops says like, I take full responsibility. You should leave them alone. And Captain America rejects that. You know, like the Phoenix is to blame, but they have to turn themselves in. He says, you know, I'll take my share of responsibility for this. On Utopia, you're right. The Avengers should have done more to help mutants than I should have done more. I allowed the world to hate and fear them for too long, which is good. He doesn't say we should have left this alone in the first place and not had the Phoenix get split into people who weren't Hope.
Yes.
Which is the thing that I want him to mea culpa. This is foreshadowing them setting up an uncanny Avengers team, which is a fusion team. I've read the beginning of that. It's pretty good. The Red Skull gets Captain America or Professor Xavier's brain and weaponizes it.
Perfect. I love it.
It's a cool Rick Remender comic. I'm looking forward to reading more of it. I wanted to pause it until I read this.
Yeah, I have been on. I've paused all comic X-Men stuff since we started doing this, and I'm actually really excited to start picking up some more X-Men stuff after this. So, He also like Captain America also like kind of runs him down for, you know, you waged a war that set friend against friend. And like,
who waged a war?
Who was waging the war? Like,
yeah, who's we? You got a mouse in your pocket?
Yeah, like did the Avengers solve drought?
Yeah,
like did the Avengers solve power? Like, what do you
elephant in the room?
Yeah,
you know. And he's saying like, oh, I guess there's a new age for the Avengers and X-Men, and Captain America saying like, don't you dare turn this into a win. You killed the best man, one of the best men I've ever known, you know, Xavier. Yeah, I pity you. And again, just nonstop condescension.
Also, I feel like if Captain America really knew Xavier, he would not say that.
We haven't seen a lot of like the thrilling adventures of Captain America and Professor Xavier. Incredible team up. Like, I'm going to go fight in World War II. That's cool. I'm going to go train mutants. See ya. And then they just go about their business. So there's a little thing with Iron Man having his new faith. I don't care about that.
Nope.
The Cyclops recognizes that mutants are being born everywhere in these other cells. And he's like, mutants are being born. I was right about the Phoenix. The Phoenix wasn't here to destroy us. And Captain America says, no, only you were here to destroy us. again,
no,
not accurate to what we saw.
Yeah, at all. Just not what happened in the fucking comic book that we just read. Like, if I was reading this concurrently, dude, if this was like coming out and I was like really into comic books, I would be fucking infuriated by this, because I would just like go back to the like, when did this happen? Like, when did he say that he wanted to destroy the world? Up until the moment that he tried.
Yeah, Emma was saying we could remake the world, and he was rejecting her and saying, stop, like, get away from me. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
Like, his moral fortitude lasted until he had full Phoenix, which never would have happened if they hadn't killed the rest of the Phoenix Five or depowered them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nova joins the Avengers. Who cares? The Captain America says to Wolverine, like, I'm going to leave. It's not that simple. The ends never justify the means. Unless you want to say something, Wolverine says he has a eulogy to give.
Yeah.
Which I thought would be in this issue, but it's not.
And
then as they're leaving, Cyclops says, that's the thing about the Phoenix. There always has to be destruction.
Yeah. I really, this line that Cyclops has of like, if I could trade places with Professor Xavier, I would without hesitation. I kind of vaguely, I've read some stuff after this, and I remember Cyclops being like a little bit more aggressive about stuff, like even after this, and I can't wait to see how that articulates, because I don't want like sad Cyclops being like, oh, I was wrong, I did a bunch of bad stuff. I want him to be like, no, fuck you, like, you guys pushed me into a thing, you made me turn into
Cyclops is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I hope that I'm sure it does, because I've seen some stuff, but like I'd be curious how all of that stuff is handled from this point out. And then we see Hope, who is says, she's like, I think she's on the beach again. Like, we're back to beach.
Yep, love that beach.
Shield has put up fencing around Utopia, which feels very fucking dystopian in all of this.
Yeah. No trespassing.
And then it ends with this line where, that's the thing about the Phoenix, there always has to be destruction before the rebirth, and we see like this rose growing out of the wreckage of Utopia as Hope jetpacks away. And what are you trying to tell me here? Like, what is this rose supposed to symbolize? It's not like the Avengers are the one that fucked this place up. It wasn't the X-Men.
A single dove lands on the shoulder.
This doesn't make any fucking sense, Gary. It really irritates me.
Yeah. It's bad. It's the whole crossover as a whole, I think, is a mixed bag. I think that the most successful, I mean, maybe we should save that for like when we do the response episode. Yeah. I don't want to repeat all of our points, but like, weirdly enough, most successful has been in action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's been some good fights in this, and some good concepts and visuals that have been really cool. Thematically, it feels cowardly to me.
Yeah.
In a way that I dislike. And I just want the adventures of radical ass Cyclops who's off, doing what it takes. And part of that's 2022 brain. Like, in a post-Trump world, this feels so different.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that is also just, I think that'd be a more interesting story.
I do too. Absolutely. And again, I finished this big crossover event with Cyclops was absolutely right during the entire thing.
Yeah.
Like, I never really cared about the Tony Stark and Captain America argument and the MCU Civil War thing. I thought that was not really handled very, very well, because we're not going to get into the details, but like, out of the two, Avengers versus X-Men, like, Cyclops' team of X-Men were doing the right thing at all times. Like, period.
Yeah.
Only the Namor stuff, which, hey, it's fucking Namor. What are you going to do? You shouldn't give him the Phoenix power.
Yeah. They shouldn't have split it. There's a lot of interesting shit. Like, the idea of Cyclops being the only moral person on the team, it clings, because the idea of, like, again, I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, the idea of this being the worst possible 5 X-Men to get the power other than Cyclops, I think is really interesting. Like, former villain, 2 demon possessed characters. Like, that's really cool. And Cyclops trying to hold it together, which he did until the end. It just, none of these people who were his friends and colleagues saw that. We're seeing the same thing I did. And that was the story I wanted to read. Really interesting. The idea of him being, no, we can use this for good. And the people surrounding him, falling prey because they don't have the unshakable moral center that Cyclops has, which is like, core to his character, so I don't know, man. It ended up being a pretty frustrating read. I read these last night before bed, and it's been a long week, and I was just, I was irritated. Things to like, but irritated.
Fuck your life, bing bong.
Hey folks, it's Jeremy. We dropped out, so I didn't hear Gary's last rant. I'm going to listen to it back in editing. So, but I think that we were probably
surprising number of things in there about tort reform.
Oh no, okay. So I have a lot of editing
Yeah.
to do tomorrow morning. Great.
Yeah,
Good,
you're gonna have to bleep out a lot of stuff about NAFTA and
good.
the Magna Carta.
Okay. Good enough.
The gold standard.
Yeah, we're gonna put some new
major consent laws.
Put some new tags on the podcast description on Apple Podcasts, so we can bring in some new listeners with that. I think I don't know about you, but I think I pretty much had said all my thoughts on this issue. I think we'll definitely have more thoughts when it comes to the overall arc, especially as we start cleaning up stuff in the consequences series and things like that. But for now, I just want to stick with it. Cyclops was right. Absolutely, he was always right about it. All of this stuff. So,
if I have to choose, that's the side I choose. I wish it was handled better.
Yeah, me too.
So,
thank you everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. Like we mentioned, I think at the beginning of this episode, we've got some ideas for stuff we're going to cover after AVX. We may go around some solo runs or some just kind of offshoot X-Men books that focus on one or two characters. We may go look at some first appearances. We've got some ideas. If you guys have feedback that you want to send us about that, please do. daysoffuturecast.com/contact is the place to be. You can also send us feedback about Avengers versus X-Men, all of the MCU stuff we've been talking about, all of that stuff. So please do that.
Yeah.
Check out the Patreon over at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You get some really, really cool stuff if you donate some cash over there. A bunch of exclusive content from Gary and Cole, which is super neat.
Yeah, we have, and we have time to write in those responses. We have at least one more session of AVX cleanup to do.
Oh yeah.
We don't know how much it'll be. We have to do some scouting.
Yeah. So you have plenty of time. You can also, add us on Twitter or whatever. DM me. My DMs are open because I'm not afraid of the internet. So feel free to send me stuff there if you want to. We're going to be back next week or in a couple of days with more of the fallout from AVX. Rip Xavier, Gary.
Rip him.
Rip him.
Grip him and rip him.
Bye, everybody.